Greetings, loved ones. Today we're going to talk about recovering from the emotional trauma of domestic abuse. Help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others. You never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. So how do you recover from the emotional trauma of domestic abuse? People wondering how to recover from this emotional trauma really want to know how long recovery will take. Unfortunately, there is no solid time frame for recovering from emotional trauma. But if we can slow down a minute and understand how to recover from emotional trauma, then how long it will take part, that's going to handle itself. So first we're going to ask the question, how do you recover from emotional trauma when the abuse is ongoing? You haven't left your abuser yet. So if you're currently in an abusive relationship, I don't want to say you're screwed in your recovery from domestic abuse, but you kind of are, just a little. Although there are things that you can do to recoup from the day's abuses while living with your abuser, you are continually recouping. You can't get ahead of the emotional trauma and psychological trauma and into recovery when you live with the abuse. Yes, you can have great days living with an abuser, but they don't last forever. And for the entirety of the great day, you're waiting for the abuse to happen. It's in the back of your mind, so it may as well happen, and it eventually does. As you probably notice, when you feel good, your abuser hates it. Abusers do not like you to feel good because happy people are strong people. And strong people have enough self-esteem to leave the abuser's sorry butt. So as long as you're living in abuse, complete recovery from emotional trauma is practically impossible and at least improbable. Even so, you can recoup some of the mental health you lose each day from psychological trauma by doing things that are good for you. You can try these things. Make a visit to your doctor to check for depression or anxiety. Meditate or use alternative forms of meditation. Educate yourself on all aspects of abuse. You can watch all our videos so you can learn all about it. Detach yourself from your abuser. Call the domestic violence hotline to vent and speak with an advocate. Fill out a domestic violence safety plan. You could also start building a network of supportive friends, online, in person, family members, local domestic violence programs that include support groups and things like that. There's various things that you can do. So, since we talked about how to recover from emotional abuse when you're with your abuser, now let's talk about recovering from emotional abuse and trauma when you've left your abuser. There are phases of recovery emotional and psychological trauma victims travel through after getting rid of their abuser. Knowing the phases will help shorten your recovery time because when you know what to expect, you feel less anxiety. And if you're dealing with less anxiety, your recovery from domestic abuse will naturally take less time. According to the Manitoba Trauma Information and Education Center, the 3 stages of emotional trauma recovery are 1. Safety and stabilization. 2. Remembrance and mourning. And 3. Reconnection and integration. So let's talk about the first one, safety and stabilization. Stabilization. I have trouble sometimes speaking English because I speak Spanish all the time, and sometimes the fibro too messes with my mouth, but we're going to go on. So, safety and stabilization. First, emotional trauma victims should work to regain their feelings of safety and mental stability. That's easier said than done, but still doable. What will help you feel safer and mentally stronger? You know yourself best, but here's some suggestions that we can give you. Learn to accept and self-soothe during an emotional crisis, as your emotions may bug out on you at first. Another thing you can do is pay attention to what triggered your emotional instability so you can avoid or disarm the trigger in the future. You might find it very hard to talk about the trauma, so work it out in different ways like meditation, yoga, drawing, writing, running, anything that lets your emotions come and go without words. That said, get into talk therapy with a professional if possible. There's a lot of ground you can cover without speaking of the trauma directly. The other thing you want to do is work to regain worthy connections with friends and family. Don't bother with relationships that diminish or discourage you in any way. So let's talk about the second step, remembrance and mourning. Secondly, you've got to work through those memories, and you have to mourn the relationship. The relationship you thought it could become, not the relationship as it was in reality. In this phase, you will get to the point where you can discuss your feelings with a wide variety of people in your life. The point is to feel the emotion without allowing the emotion to trick you into feeling the past as if it were present. Feeling past trauma as if it is happening now is a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. In this phase, you'll still cry or feel angry or miss the good times or any other emotion as you talk about the trauma. And that's okay. No one worth spending time with expects you to be flippant about being traumatized. If you feel your confidence in your safety or your mental stability fading, regroup and slow down. Don't push yourself backward when you're trying to move forward. So here are some ways that you can work through this period of trauma. Maintain the feelings of safety and stability. Talking. There is power in telling your story. Journaling, drawing, painting, arts and crafts, writing, or anything that's creative. You can include self-care like eating better, exercising more, and paying attention to the thoughts that are going on in your head. Don't let your negative thoughts control you as much as possible. It's an ongoing job, and I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to interject. It is an ongoing job. Even decades after suffering abuse, in my own journey for healing, I still have those thoughts that come, and I have to say, hey, no, that's not true. I am a daughter of the King. I am loved. I am appreciated. I can do this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. They still come in your mind. They're not as strong as they used to be, but they're still there. So it's an ongoing, lifelong journey. So reconnection and integration. This is the last phase, is all about releasing the trauma to the past and feeling good about the life you are creating for yourself. Your psychological trauma story no longer defines who you are. It is integrated into the story of you. So here are some things you can do to aid the process of reconnection and integration after emotional trauma. Everyone says to volunteer. If you're volunteering somewhere that isn't a good fit for you, find a way to teach what you've learned from the whole mess. That is your way to grow. You can also make yourself available to meeting new people, not lovers, but friends. I recommend that you wait 6 to 12 months before getting into another relationship. You might find a lover, but if you find yourself feeling emotionally destabilized or wanting to connect with that person very quickly, then perhaps it is too soon to date. And again, I recommend 6 months to a year before even thinking about getting into a relationship with anybody. The other thing you can do is decide what you want in your new life. Make a plan and go for it. Let's talk about the time frame for recovering from emotional trauma. There's actually no time frame for moving through the phases, except that it is rational to expect that someone who lived with long-term abuse for years will recover more slowly than it would be for someone who experienced emotional abuse for a shorter period of time. One more thing. This last phase will be the longest, and it might last the rest of your life, or as long as the abusive relationship did. And you need to be okay with that. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's how it goes. Whatever you do, don't hurry the process. Be like Shrek and think of yourself as an onion. Peel away layer after layer until you reconnect with the core of who you are. And remember, it is a journey, it is a process. Embrace that process and walk toward your healing step by step by step. You can do this. With 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence worldwide and 50 million children witnessing violence each year, the question is not if you will encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. And those who suffer violence need to know that those who love them And those who don't even know them will step out and reach out to them to give them the help and the courage they need to leave before it's too late. Help us get these messages out. Subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others, because you never know, just by doing so you could save a life. If you are a victim of violence, please listen to me. You are valued. You are loved. You're intelligent. You are beautiful. God does not want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live free from violence and peace and tranquility. And there is a way out. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Remember, that's the one truth to know. And abuse is not love. If you're a victim of violence, reach out to someone today. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911. And if you know of a child suffering violence, tell the authorities. In our next episode, we're going to talk about 7 steps of healing from domestic abuse. Until then, God bless you.